Hi, I'm Jonathan McDonald from Province Sports. I'm here with longtime hockey writer Tony Gallagher. Tony, the Sedins, these guys have been here as long as we can remember. People made fun of them when they were young, when they were skinny, when they were top draft picks, not putting up big numbers. Does Vancouver even know how good they've had it for a decade?
Well, I think they're coming to that realization now. I really do. I think now this resurgence, after the poor year last year, this resurgence has made fans realize how much we missed that kind of magic that's been on display for a long, long time. The magic hasn't been there as long as you might think. It didn't really start the first couple of years. They were kind of handed everything on a silver platter when they first arrived. They were straight on to the second power play unit when they really had no business in the league. You know, even Henrik himself now admits they might have been better spending a year in the American League. But they did stay on here, and they were behind the West Coast Express line. And then they began to develop as great players. And as Bertuzzi and Naslund faded and Brendan Morrison began to fade and look elsewhere, the Sedins began to take over, and then obviously they ran with the ball. What they can do is really nothing short of magic. They're so strong on their skates. They're so great in the corners. The passes that Henrik makes are just sick. The talent level is so high. The one he made in Washington, that backhand pass from Verbata, he backhand passes right out beyond Holtby, right onto Daniel's stick, bang in the net. You know, very few people even attempt that, and he makes it perfectly. But, you know, there's such a rich a tradition there. There's a lot of untold stories about the Sedins. The one about, you know, for instance, Brian Burke saying that they, you know, drafted them first. And yes, Brian made those trades, but the guy who did all the work setting it up and went to all the clubs and said, look, will you do this if that happens? And will you do this if they offer this guy? And it was Mike Barnett, who was their agent. Like, his mission in life was to get them together to make sure they weren't split up during draft. And it didn't look like that was going to happen. And working with various clubs, Barnett tried it with 2 or 3 teams. Atlanta was the first and foremost team that he tried it with. It wasn't going to work there, so he quickly shuffled to the next team and to the next team. And finally, Brian Burke showed that he'd be willing to consider this, and the Canucks had Brian McCabe that the Hawks you know, that this team wanted, and that, you know, and Barnett put it all together and got the parties together, and Burke pulled the trigger. So without the both of them working in concert, the Sedins would never have come to Vancouver. But I'll say this for Brian Burke, and everyone knows I'm not his biggest fan, but he certainly showed a great way of developing these guys. He threw them right into the mix, right into the fire, and stayed with them constantly through thick and thin. He just stayed with them. Listen, he took all the slings and arrows about how they were Brian Burke's favorites. He just barged through all that, kept playing them, and developed Hart Trophy winners, and they're still rewarding the city.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Tony, because last year, of course, a disastrous year under John Tortorella, and a lot of people said, look, the Sedins are finished, and they're showing this year that not only are they not finished, they should well be all-stars again. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep it rolling Thursday night against Pittsburgh. Tony, of course, will be writing post-game at provincesports.com, and check out all of Jason Vacher's work from Pittsburgh.